Close your eyes. Let the noise of your day, with its endless lists and insistent demands, fade into a gentle, distant hum. Let the muscles in your shoulders release. Tonight, we are not traveling to the blood-soaked fields of Troy, nor are we navigating the terrifying, twisting corridors of the Minotaur's labyrinth. We are not here for epic deeds or heroic pronouncements. We are going somewhere even the poets and playwrights rarely describe. The quiet moments in between, the spaces that fill the endless days of eternity. Have you ever wondered what the gods truly do when no one is watching? When the myths are put to bed for the night, and a new day on the silver peak of Olympus simply begins. Imagine yourself now, not as a hero seeking favor, not as a mortal supplicant begging for rain or a good harvest, but as something far more subtle. You are a flicker of consciousness, an unseen, unheard wisp of thought. You are a ghost of a notion, drifting weightlessly through the pre-dawn halls of the celestial palace. The air around you is profoundly cold, so still it feels ancient, and it carries the faint, metallic scent of yesterday's distant thunderstorm, a clean, sharp smell like ozone on wet stone. The great marble floors, polished to a perfect mirror finish by the tireless work of nymphs, do not reflect a ceiling, but the vast, star-dusted velvet of the cosmos itself, visible through the impossibly high, open colonnades that line the hall. It feels as if you are walking on the night sky. There is no sound of music here, no echo of laughter, no boastful proclamations. There is only a profound, echoing silence. It is the silence of forever, but it is not entirely empty, and it is not entirely dark. In the very center of the grand hall, a singular flame burns, its light soft and steady. This is the hearth of Hestia, the very heart of this divine home, and she is already awake. Or perhaps a more fitting thought occurs to you: she never truly sleeps. Picture her now as you drift closer, a silent observer in her sacred space. She is not the glittering, bejeweled queen you might imagine. She is a simple, unassuming figure, cloaked in a plain, dove-gray robe, her hair neatly bound and tucked away. Her face, a feature so often overlooked in the clamor of the myths, is the picture of serene composure. Her expression calm, patient, and utterly unreadable. Her hands, long and graceful, move with a deliberate, unhurried purpose as she tends the eternal fire. You watch as she selects a log, not of earthly oak or pine, but of pure, celestial olive wood. As she places it carefully upon the embers, it burns with a clean, white gold light that gives off no smoke, only a gentle, radiating warmth and the faintest scent of flowering groves. In her steady, rhythmic movements, you feel the fundamental truth of this place. Every other god on this mountain, in their own way, seeks action, validation, worship, or distraction. They thrive on the noise of mortal prayers and the drama of their own immortal lives. Hestia only seeks balance. Her endless task is not a punishment, nor is it a chore. It is her very purpose, the core of her. This flame, you understand with a clarity that needs no words, is the anchor of their entire world. It is the metaphysical concept of home, given form and fire. If it were to ever flicker and die, the very idea of family, of belonging, of a place to return to, would simply vanish from. You watch, mesmerized, as she takes up a broom made of silver birch, twigs bound with spun moonlight, and begins to sweep the hearth. The sound is a soft shhhshhh, a rhythmic, meditative whisper against the stone. It is the very first sound of the new Olympian day, a sound of quiet, unending, and profoundly peaceful duty. She pauses for a moment, her work complete, and she looks up. Her gaze does not fall upon you. You are less than a shadow here, but seems to pass right through you, directed toward the vast, open expanse of the eastern sky. It is still a deep, bruised purple, the color of a fading dream, but you can feel a change in the air. A subtle warmth that has nothing to do with the hearth fire. A feeling, a presence, a sense that something vast and powerful is approaching. The great silence is about to be broken, for even on Olympus, the night must always yield to the day, and the one who brings the dawn is never, ever subtle. The warmth grows, a tangible presence on your non-existent skin. It is not the concentrated heat of a fire, but a pervasive, golden energy that seems to soak into the very marble itself, making the cold stone feel almost alive. Then you hear it. At first, it is just a faint, impossibly distant hum, a vibration in the fabric of reality. It resolves itself not into the music of a harp or a flute or even a chorus of voices. It is the sound of light itself being woven into a melody, a symphony of rising frequencies and harmonious chords. This can only be the arrival of Apollo. He does not rise from a silken bedchamber within the palace walls. He arrives with the dawn because, in a very real sense, he is the dawn. His chariot, a breathtaking creation forged by Hephaestus from pure, condensed sun gold, pulls into view across the celestial horizon. It is drawn not by horses, but by 4 magnificent Pegasi, their coats the color of fresh cream and their immense wings beating with silent, powerful strokes that stir the high, thin clouds into gentle patterns. Apollo himself is a figure of impossible, almost painful perfection. His skin seems to glow from within, radiating a soft light. His hair is not merely blonde, but appears to be spun from the finest threads of gold. He steps down from the chariot, and you notice that where his bare feet touch the cold marble, the stone warms instantly, leaving behind a faint, shimmering footprint that fades in seconds. He inclines his head toward Hestia, a brief, silent gesture of respect between 2 fundamental opposing forces. The brilliant, fleeting energy of daybreak greeting the steady, eternal warmth of the hearth. She simply nods in return, her calm gaze unwavering. He carries his lyre, its frame of polished ivory and tortoise shell gleaming. As he idles, waiting for the world to catch up to him, he plucks a single string. The note that rings out is perfectly clear, impossibly pure, and as the sound ripples through the air, you see the morning dew that has gathered on the leaves of the celestial olive groves instantly evaporate in a soft, rising mist. Now, with the arrival of light and sound, others begin to stir. A distant door of heavy, celestial bronze groans open, the sound echoing in the vastness. From it, Hermes appears, already moving at a speed that is more of a blur than a walk. He doesn't stride, he glides, a streak of motion and contained energy. He wears a winged helmet, the feathers fluttering even in the still air, and on his feet are his famous winged sandals. He zips past Apollo, a mischievous grin already playing on his lips, his eyes alight with a restless intelligence. "Slept well?" he asks, his voice quick and sharp, though he already knows the answer. No one sleeps well on Olympus. Immortality, you surmise, makes for a very poor pillow, offering endless time for memory and regret to do their work. Apollo doesn't answer directly. He simply smiles, a perfect, radiant, yet somehow weary smile that doesn't quite reach his luminous eyes. "The mortals are praying for sun again," he says, his voice a warm, melodic tenor. "Let's not keep..." More sounds now begin to populate the silence. Far off, you can hear the rhythmic clang and scrape of armor being polished, a sharp, metallic sound. A woman's voice, crisp and commanding, calls a name that is snatched away by the sheer scale of the palace. You catch a new scent on the air, sweet and fragrant, the smell of nectar being poured from golden ewers into crystal goblets. The day on Olympus has truly begun. But as you drift instinctively toward the center of power, toward the throne room, you notice something curious about the energy in the air. It is not an atmosphere of joy or divine purpose or celestial harmony. It is the familiar, heavy energy of a workplace. It is the reluctant, resigned feeling of another mandatory meeting about to start. And the agenda, you suspect, will be anything but cosmic. The great doors to the throne room, each one carved from a single piece of ivory and inlaid with gold, swing open without a sound, moved by some unseen force. You drift inside, a silent observer. The sheer scale of the room is overwhelming, designed to awe and intimidate mortals and minor gods alike. 12 enormous thrones are arranged in a wide semicircle, each one fashioned from gold and other precious materials, each uniquely tailored to its divine occupant. But your attention is quickly drawn away from the grandeur and toward the atmosphere. It is thick, heavy and crackling with a low-level, familiar tension. Zeus, king of the gods, sits on the central throne, which is larger and more ornate than the others, topped with a carving of a great eagle with ruby eyes. His famous brow is furrowed, his great beard seems to bristle with irritation, and he is not holding a fistful of lightning. He is holding a simple, rolled-up scroll, tapping it impatiently against the arm of his throne. In this moment, he looks less like the king of the cosmos and more like a deeply frustrated chief executive officer. Right, Zeus's voice booms, and the sound is not thunder, but the exasperated rumble of a patriarch who has had this same conversation 1,000 times before. The low, indistinct murmur of divine chatter immediately ceases. First order of business, Poseidon. He lets out a long, theatrical sigh and runs a hand over his face. The mortals in Attica are complaining, again, about the saltwater spring. From a throne encrusted with coral and mother-of-pearl, Poseidon, the earth-shaker, shifts his immense weight, causing a faint tremor to run through the marble floor. It was a gift, he rumbles, and his voice is the deep, grinding sound of tectonic plates shifting far beneath the ocean floor. If they don't have the sense to figure out desalination, that is hardly my concern. From her throne, a study in elegant, severe lines, Athena does not even bother to look at her uncle. She is intently inspecting the razor-sharp point of her bronze-tipped spear, her expression one of cool, intellectual disdain. Perhaps, she states, her voice as clear and cutting as fine crystal, if your gift had been something useful like, say, an olive tree, we would not be having this conversation for the 500th consecutive year. Ares, the god of war, lets out a short, brutish laugh, which he quickly stifles when he sees the look Zeus shoots him. And there it is, your first, unfiltered glimpse behind the golden curtain of myth. This is not a council of fate, deciding the destinies of men and the turning of the cosmos. This is a recurring grievance meeting, a session of celestial bureaucracy. You listen, fascinated, as the complaints and requests continue. Ares, his muscular form barely contained by his golden armor, makes a passionate, if somewhat incoherent, plea for a larger budget for celestial bronze production, citing imagined threats from the giants. Aphrodite, lounging elegantly on a throne draped in sea silk, complains that the brilliant light from Apollo's new chariot is a bit much, and is giving her a divine migraine, suggesting he should perhaps tone it down. Hermes, ever the efficiency expert, puts in a formal request for a new, upgraded pair of sandals, claiming his current model's flight-to-message ratio is becoming inefficient. It is all cosmic in scale, yes, but it is also deeply, painfully, mundane. You realize with a startling sense of disillusionment that their great power hasn't freed them from the drudgery of petty bureaucracy. It has simply made their paperwork, their arguments, and their resentments eternal. Throughout all of this, Hera sits beside Zeus on her own magnificent throne, and she remains utterly silent. Her silence, you quickly perceive, is more powerful and more menacing than any of Poseidon's rumblings or Zeus's theatrical sighs. She is the queen, the matriarch, the long-suffering manager of this dysfunctional divine family. She listens, her regal gaze sweeping slowly over the council, lingering for a moment on each speaker. She is not just listening to their words. You can see it in her sharp, intelligent eyes. She is cataloging their shifting allegiances, their hidden weaknesses, their simmering desires. Her true role, you understand, is not to rule with thunder and decree, but to manage the fragile, oversized, and endlessly clashing egos that somehow, against all odds, keep the universe from flying apart at the seams. It is a thankless, infuriating, and unending task. Finally, Zeus has heard enough. He slams his open hand down on the golden armrest of his throne. The sound is not a crack of thunder, just a heavy, frustrated, all-too-human thud that echoes in the tense silence. Fine, he declares, his voice thick with resignation. We will table the discussion on the saltwater spring. Again, meeting adjourned. With a collective, almost imperceptible sigh of relief, the gods rise. The tension that had filled the room breaks, but it does not dissipate. It clings to them as they file out of the throne room, not as a unified pantheon of cosmic rulers, but as disgruntled colleagues eager to escape a pointless meeting and get back to their own departments. They walk off in different directions, pointedly not looking at each other. As the great hall empties, leaving only the gleaming, vacant thrones, you are left to wonder, what does an immortal being do to pass the endless hours until the next meeting? The answer, you feel with a sudden pang of empathy, is lonelier and more tedious than any myth has ever dared to tell. The midday sun now hangs directly over Olympus, a perfect white-hot orb in a sea of flawless blue. It is a light of absolute clarity, a light without shadow, without mystery, without romance. And in this unforgiving, revealing light, the gods retreat, not to rest as mortals do, but to simply exist. You drift first, drawn by a sense of intellectual curiosity, to the great weaving hall of Athena. Here, the goddess of wisdom sits alone before a loom the size of a mortal ship's sail. The threads are not wool or silk, but spun starlight, river mist, and the dark. She is weaving the story of the cosmos itself. You can see the fiery birth of constellations, the epic, brutal clash of the titans, the founding of cities, and the rise and fall of heroes. The artistry is breathtaking, the detail divine. But as you float closer, you notice that her fingers, though swift and sure, are moving almost mechanically. Her eyes, the color of a stormy gray sea, hold a distant, hollow look. She is not creating, she is repeating. You recognize the patterns. This is the same flawless, perfect tapestry she finished a century ago, and the one she finished a century before that. The story never changes. You move on, your ethereal form drifting through marble corridors, drawn now by a different sound. A rhythmic, heavy clang, clang, clang. You descend into the very heart of the mountain, down a spiraling staircase that seems to go on for miles, until the air grows thick with a dry, suffocating heat. You have found the forges of Hephaestus, the master craftsman, the lame god. The roar of the bellows is a constant, deafening thunder, and the heat from the forge fires is so immense it makes the air shimmer. Here, the god works, his powerful, muscular arms slick with sweat, his misshapen leg braced against an anvil of... He is hammering a piece of celestial bronze, his hammer rising and falling in a steady, powerful rhythm that has been his life's only constant companion. He is forging a shield. The details emerging under his hammer are magnificent. A snarling lion with a mane of sculpted fire, a river of inlaid silver that seems to truly flow, a forest of bronze trees so detailed you can almost hear the wind in their leaves. But there is no customer for this shield. There is no war that needs it, no hero waiting to carry it into battle. He is building for the sake of building. It is the only thing that quiets the endless noise of memory and resentment in his head. The forge is the only place his twisted form feels not just useful, but powerful. You see him pause in his work, picking up the nearly finished shield with a pair of massive tongs. He wipes his brow with the back of a soot-stained arm and stares into the incandescent heart of the fire. In his gaze, you see not a mighty god of invention, but a lonely, brilliant artisan, trapped in the beautiful prison of his own genius. He dips the still-glowing shield into a massive vat of cool, sweet nectar. It explodes in a furious hiss, a huge cloud of fragrant steam rising to briefly obscure his face from view. When the steam clears, he pulls the shield out, now cooled and gleaming. He holds the masterpiece up to the firelight, inspecting it with a critical eye. It is perfect, utterly, divinely, flawlessly perfect, and utterly, completely pointless. With a sigh that is lost in the roar of the forge, he limps over to a corner of the cavern and places it carefully on a pile with 100 other perfect shields, 100 other suits of immaculate armor, 100 other exquisitely useless swords. He does not stop to admire it. He does not give it a second glance. He simply turns, his broad back to his own creation, and limps back to the forge, picking up a new, unformed piece of bronze. In this moment, you understand something profound about him, something the other gods, in their vanity and perfection, could never grasp. He is not defined by the beautiful wife who betrayed him, or the vain mother who was ashamed of him, or the cruel father who threw him from this very mountain. He is defined by this single, repeated act, the endless, solitary, beautiful act of creation. It is his curse, and it is his only salvation. Leaving the suffocating heat of the forge behind, you rise again, ascending back to the sunlit, open-air halls of the palace. The atmosphere, the air is now thick with a new collection of scents. Not of fire or ozone or nectar, but something far richer, sweeter, and more intoxicating. It is the scent of ambrosia, the food of the gods being prepared for the afternoon feast. It smells of honey and roasted nuts and 1,000 different flowers, and something else, something indescribable and utterly divine. You sense that this meal is the one time of day all the gods are forced to gather again, to sit at the same table. You feel that the grand, tiring performance of divinity, with all its practiced smiles and veiled, but as you watch the nymphs carry golden platters of impossible-looking fruits and steaming, fragrant dishes down a long corridor, you know the truth now. Beneath the golden plates and the sparkling goblets of nectar, the hunger they truly feel is not for food. It is a hunger for purpose, for meaning, for something, anything, to break the soul-crushing monotony of forever. You follow the procession of servants, drifting into the great dining hall. It is less a room and more a vast, open-air pavilion with a roof supported by impossibly slender columns of polished jasper. A single, long table of gleaming white marble dominates the space, already set with golden plates, crystal goblets and platters piled high with food that seems to glow with an inner light. The gods begin to file in, taking their accustomed seats. The mood is lighter than it was in the morning council. The nectar is already flowing, poured by the beautiful goddess Hebe, and its effects are immediate. You can see the tension begin to leave Zeus's shoulders. A genuine smile touches Apollo's lips as he banters with his twin sister, Artemis, who has just returned from her hunt in the mortal world, her silver bow slung over her shoulder. She smells of the deep forest, of pine needles and clean earth, a scent that feels wonderfully wild and out of place in this sterile, perfect palace. Poseidon and Athena sit at opposite ends of the table, pointedly ignoring each other. Ares is loudly recounting a tale of some long-forgotten battle, gesturing wildly with a roasted bird leg, while Aphrodite listens with a look of practiced, bored adoration. It is a family dinner, in all its chaotic, complicated glory. They eat, they drink, they argue, they gossip. Hermes zips from one end of the table to the other, delivering whispered messages and juicy tidbits of news from the mortal world, which are consumed as eagerly as the ambrosia. For a brief shining moment, they almost seem happy. But you, the silent observer, can see the cracks in the facade. You see the way Hera's smile never quite reaches her eyes, as she watches Zeus laugh, a little too loudly, at one of Aphrodite's jokes. You see the shadow that crosses Artemis's face when her brother Apollo mentions a new temple being built in his honor. You see the profound, soul-deep weariness behind Demeter's gentle expression, a constant, low-level grief for her lost daughter Persephone that no amount of nectar can wash away. This is not a celebration. It is a distraction, a temporary, much-needed anesthetic against the chronic pain of immortality. The meal winds down, and the gods begin to disperse once more, retreating to their own private domains to while away the long, golden afternoon. You find yourself drawn to the gardens of the palace, a place of almost aggressive beauty. Here, flowers that never wilt bloom in a riot of impossible colors. Fountains murmur, their waters sparkling with dissolved sunlight. The air is heavy with the scent of jasmine and rose. And here you find Hera, walking alone among the perfect flower beds. She is not admiring the view. Her hands are clasped behind her back, and she paces with the focused, restless energy of a caged panther. Her face in repose is etched with the lines of a deep, ancient sorrow. Here, away from the prying eyes of the court, the mask of the serene, regal queen falls away. You see her for what she truly is, a goddess of marriage, bound for eternity to a husband whose infidelities are the stuff of legend. Her entire domain, her very reason for being, is a source of constant, unending humiliation. She stops before a rosebush, its blossoms the color of a deep, bruised heart. She reaches out a hand, not to pluck a flower, but to touch one of the sharp thorns on its stem. She presses her divine finger against it, harder and harder, until even immortal flesh cannot resist. A single, shimmering drop of ichor, the golden blood of the gods, wells up on her fingertip. She stares at it, her expression unreadable. Is it a penance, a reminder, a way to feel something, anything, other than the familiar, bitter ache of betrayal? You realize that her legendary jealousy and rage, the cruelty she inflicts upon Zeus's mortal lovers and their children, is not born of simple malice. It is the desperate lashing out of a being trapped in an impossible situation, a prisoner in a golden cage of her own making. Her power is immense, but it is also exquisitely, cruelly specific. She cannot leave him, she cannot change him. She can only endure. And in that endurance, she has become as hard and as sharp as the thorn she now presses into her own skin. This quiet, private moment of pain is more revealing than 1,000 myths about her wrath. Leaving the melancholy queen to her solitude, you feel a pull toward a different kind of energy, wilder, more chaotic, more alive. You drift away from the manicured perfection of the central palace and toward the forested slopes of the mountain. Here the air changes. It becomes thick with the scent of crushed grapes, overripe figs, and damp earth. Laughter, raw and uninhibited, echoes through the trees, along with the sound of pipes playing a frantic, joyful, and slightly dissonant tune. You have found the domain of Dionysus, the youngest of the Olympians, the god of wine, revelry, and madness. He is lounging on a bed of moss and ivy, a half-empty goblet in his hand, his eyes glazed with pleasure. He is surrounded by his followers, satyrs with their goat legs and mischievous grins, and maenads, wild-eyed women with vine leaves in their hair. They are dancing, singing, and drinking, lost in a state of ecstatic release. At first glance, it seems like a joyous, carefree scene. But as you watch, you begin to see the desperation beneath. Dionysus himself, though he is smiling, has a deep sadness in his eyes. He is a god who walks the line between two worlds, never fully belonging to either. He was born of a mortal woman, and his place on Olympus was hard-won, not freely given. He is forever the outsider, the strange, wild god who doesn't quite fit in with the stoic, ancient powers of the original pantheon. His revelries, you realize, are not just about pleasure. They are about forgetting. Forgetting his tragic origins, forgetting his otherness, forgetting, for a few precious, wine-soaked hours, the crushing weight of being a god. The dancing of the maenads is not just joyful. It has a frantic, dangerous edge to it, a dance on the very brink of madness. This is not the peaceful oblivion of sleep. It is a loud, chaotic, and ultimately temporary attempt to silence the thoughts that come with being conscious for eternity. You feel a strange pity for this god of joy, for you see that his endless party is just another, louder form of Hephaestus's forge or Athena's loom, a way to keep the silence at bay. As the afternoon begins to wane, the light softening from brilliant white gold to a warmer, honeyed yellow, you find yourself drifting back toward the main palace, drawn by an air of somber duty. You find your way to a secluded wing, a part of the palace that seems quieter and more ancient than the rest. Here, there are no open colonnades, only high, slit-like windows. The air is cool and smells of old parchment, dust, and something else of the faint, metallic scent of fate. This is the domain of the Moirai, the three fates, ancient beings who were old when Zeus was but a child. They sit together in a dimly lit chamber, their faces shadowed and impossible to read. Clotho, the spinner, pulls the raw stuff of life from a distaff, spinning it into a fine, luminous thread. Lachesis, the allotter, measures the thread with a rod of polished obsidian, her movements precise and unwavering. And Atropos, the inevitable, the unturnable, sits with her shears of adamant, waiting. The gods themselves rarely come here. This is a power even Zeus fears, a power he cannot command. You watch as Lachesis measures a thread, a particularly bright one that shines with the light of a hero's destiny. She measures it out, a long and storied length, full of knots of conflict and smooth stretches of peace. Then she stops. She holds the thread out. Atropos, without a word, without a moment's hesitation, raises her shears. The snip is a small, quiet sound in the vast silence of the room, yet it echoes with the finality of a collapsing star. You see the severed end of the luminous thread fall, its light extinguishing before it even reaches the floor. A king has just died in his bed. A hero has fallen in battle. A child has drawn its last breath. The fates do not weep. They do not rejoice. They show no emotion at all. They simply turn back to their work. Clotho spins a new thread. Lachesis begins to measure. Atropos waits. You are witnessing the engine room of the cosmos, and it is not a place of passion or drama. It is a place of quiet, inexorable, and terrifyingly mundane work. Theirs is the ultimate burden of immortality, not just to exist forever, but to be the silent, dispassionate accountants of every beginning and every end. The sun is beginning its descent now, painting the western clouds in magnificent streaks of orange, pink, and deep violet. It is the hour of transition, the time when the world holds its breath between day and night. You find yourself drawn back to the grand hall, the place where your journey began. The central hearth, tended by Hestia, still burns with its steady, unwavering light, a warm anchor in the cooling air. As the sky darkens, the stars reflected in the polished marble floor begin to shine with greater intensity. The palace is quieting down. The sounds of work and revelry have faded, replaced one by one. Some of the gods begin to return, not for a meeting or a feast, but simply to be in this central space, drawn by the fire as mortals have been since the dawn of time. Apollo arrives, his daily task complete. The golden radiance that surrounded him at dawn has softened to a gentle. He sinks onto a stone bench near the fire, his magnificent lyre held loosely in his lap. He looks drained, depleted. You realize that to be the sun, to pour out that much light and energy and life force day after day, is not just a display of power. It is an act of cosmic expenditure. He gives a part of himself to the world each day, and by dusk he is lessened. Artemis joins him, sitting not beside him but a respectful distance away. She silently begins to unstring her silver bow, her movements efficient and practiced. The twins, the sun and the moon, sit in a shared, comfortable silence, the day shift and the night shift briefly overlapping in the twilight. There is no rivalry here, no bickering. Just two beings who share a unique and lonely burden, finding a moment of quiet solidarity in the presence of the eternal hearth. Hermes appears, though for the first time all day he is not moving at a blur. He walks slowly, his shoulders slumped. His task of carrying messages, prayers, and souls never truly ends, but it ebbs and flows with the tides of mortal life and death. The twilight is a lull. He nods to the twins and Hestia, then finds a shadowed pillar to lean against, closing his eyes. For a single, unguarded moment, the mischievous grin is gone, replaced by a look of profound exhaustion. To be the god of boundaries, of transitions, of the space between, means to never truly have a place of your own to stand still. He is always coming or going, always in motion. This brief moment of stillness seems almost unnatural for him, like a hummingbird forced to rest. You see now that the wings on his helmet and sandals are not just a gift, but a sentence of eternal restlessness. The great bronze doors groan open again, and you expect to see Zeus or Hera, but instead, a different figure enters, one you have not yet seen today. He is tall and stately, dressed in dark, somber robes. His face is handsome but stern, and his eyes hold a deep, unshakable melancholy. This is Hades, lord of the underworld, the forgotten brother. A wave of cold seems to emanate from him, and the other gods in the hall visibly tense. He is not a welcome visitor here on the sunlit peak of Olympus. He belongs to the darkness, the silence, the finality of the world below. He does not look at the others. His gaze is fixed solely on Hestia. He walks to the hearth, his steps silent on the sister, he says, his voice a low, gravelly rumble like stones shifting deep underground. Hestia looks up at him, and for the first time you see a clear emotion on her face, a gentle, compassionate smile. "Brother," she replies, her voice soft and warm, "you are welcome here." He nods, a curt, almost grateful gesture. Of all his siblings, she is the only one who has ever offered him kindness without condition, a place at the hearth without judgment. She had given up her own throne on the Olympian council so that Dionysus could have a seat. But you realize now it was also so that she could maintain this neutrality, this position as the heart of the family, even for its outcasts. Hades does not stay long. He simply stands for a moment, soaking in the warmth and light of the living fire, a stark contrast to the cold, ghostly flames of his own realm. It is as if he is recharging some essential part of himself, a part that the world of the dead cannot nourish. Then, with another silent nod to Hestia, he turns and departs, melting back into the shadows from which he came. The other gods visibly relax. The brief, uncomfortable intrusion is over, but you are left with a new, more complex picture of the grim lord of the dead, not as a villain, but as a lonely king, making a rare and difficult pilgrimage to the only place in the cosmos that still feels, even remotely, like home. As the last vestiges of twilight fade from the sky and the night becomes absolute, the stars in the floor mirror blaze with a cold, distant fire. A deep, resonant chime echoes through the halls, signaling the hour for sleep, even for those who do not need it. The few gods gathered by the hearth begin to stir and take their leave, heading for their own private chambers. Apollo gives Artemis a weary but affectionate look before disappearing down a long corridor. Hermes vanishes in a whisper of air. Soon, only Hestia remains, her vigil eternal, her presence as constant and as comforting as you feel the day's journey coming to its natural close. You have witnessed the mundane bureaucracy, the lonely craftsmanship, the desperate revelry, and the quiet sorrows of these all-too-human gods. You have seen that their immortality is not a gift of endless joy, but a sentence of endless repetition, an eternal struggle to find meaning in a life that has no end. You begin to drift now up from the grand hall, through the roofless pavilion, and into the vast, cold emptiness of the night sky. Looking down, the palace on Olympus is no longer a seat of cosmic power, but a small, lonely island of light in an infinite ocean of darkness, with a single, steady flame burning at its heart. The myths, with their grand tales of love and war, seem impossibly distant and simplistic now. The truth, you have found, is quieter, sadder, and infinitely more complex. The gods are not grand archetypes. They are a family, trapped together for all time, burdened by their own powers, haunted by their own pasts, and just as lost in their own way as the mortals who worship them. The silence returns, the same profound, echoing silence that greeted you at the dawn, but it feels different now. It is not empty. It is filled with the unsaid words, the unseen tears, and the quiet endurance of beings who have seen too much and lived for too long. And as you float away, back toward the world of dreams and sleep, a final, gentle thought settles in your mind. Perhaps the most heroic thing the gods do is not fighting monsters or ruling the heavens, but simply finding a way to get through another day. Let your own breathing slow, matching the quiet rhythm of the sleeping cosmos. The great, complex, and tiring day on Olympus is over. The arguments have been tabled, the crafts have been set aside, the wine has worn off. There is nothing left to do now but rest. Feel the weight of your own body, a comfortable, grounding presence. Let the stories and the images of the day fade like mist. There are no more councils to attend, no more duties to perform. You are in that quiet space in between, that peaceful, silent space where even gods can find a moment of reprieve. Allow the profound, echoing silence of Olympus to fill your mind, a silence that is not empty but full of peace. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to see. Just the soft, steady glow of a distant, cosmic hearth, warming the edges of your dreams. Let the gentle darkness cradle you, but your journey is not quite over. The suggestion of sleep was for the mortal part of you, the part that worries and plans. Let that part rest. Allow your consciousness to remain light, a feather on the celestial breeze. For the night on Olympus is long, and it holds secrets that the sun can never reveal. The day is for performance, for the grand, exhausting pageant of divinity. The night is for truth. Let us drift now, past the marble halls polished by starlight, and do what no mortal has ever dared. Let us drift through the very walls of the gods' private chambers, into the vast, silent landscapes of their dreams. Our first stop is the bedchamber of the king. You pass through a wall of solid gold, the transition seamless and without sensation, and find yourself in a space of breathtaking opulence. The room is vast enough to hold a mortal temple. The ceiling is a dome of lapis lazuli, enchanted to be a perfect, private replica of the night sky, with constellations of real diamonds moving in their slow, cosmic dance. The bed itself is an immense creation, carved from a single 1,000-year-old cedar tree, its posts shaped like roaring eagles. Silks and furs are piled high upon it, a mountain of comfort, and there in the center of it all lies Zeus, king of gods and men. He is not sleeping peacefully. His great chest rises and falls in ragged, shallow breaths. His brow, even in sleep, is furrowed, not with the frustrations of bureaucracy, but with a far deeper, more ancient anxiety. You drift closer, drawn into the vortex of his dreaming mind, and the opulent chamber around you dissolves. The scent of cedar and clean linen is replaced by the smell of damp stone and old fear. You are no longer on Olympus. You are in a place of absolute suffocating darkness, a cavern or a prison or a stomach. A deep, rumbling voice that is not his own echoes in the oppressive blackness, a voice he has not heard in eons, the voice of his father Cronus. The son will usurp the father. The words are a rhythmic, maddening chant, the prophecy that has been both the justification for his rebellion and the source of his deepest paranoia. In the dream, Zeus is not a king. He is small and weak and powerless. He feels the phantom weight of chains on his wrists, the same chains he himself used to bind the Titans in the pit of Tartarus. He sees flashes of his own children, their faces bright and strong and full of potential. He sees Athena, her eyes alight with a wisdom that rivals his own. He sees Apollo, radiant and beloved, a natural leader. He sees Ares with his raw, brutal, and in his dream state, he feels not fatherly pride, but a cold, coiling serpent of fear. The fear that the cycle will continue, that one day, one of them will look upon his throne not with filial respect, but with ambition. He dreams of being overthrown, of being cast down into the darkness, of becoming a forgotten memory, a cautionary tale whispered by a new generation of gods. The king of the cosmos, who holds the power of the thunderbolt, spends his nights not dreaming of his glories, but reliving his oldest, most foundational terror, the fear of becoming his own father. Let us leave him to his restless, gilded prison. We drift now across a moonlit courtyard and through the wall of the adjoining chamber. This is the domain of Hera. If Zeus's room was a display of raw power and wealth, Hera's is a monument to order and control. Everything is perfectly symmetrical, arranged in pristine geometric patterns. The air is cool and smells faintly of lavender, and there are no personal trinkets, no signs of clutter or chaotic life. It is as beautiful and as sterile as a tomb. Hera herself lies in her bed of polished ivory, her posture as regal in sleep as it is in wakefulness. She seems serene, but the landscape of her dream is a place of quiet, psychological horror. She does not dream of monsters or of battles. Her nightmare is far more subtle and far more cruel. In her dream, she is standing in the great throne room, but it is empty. The hearth of Hestia is cold, its ashes gray and dead. She calls out, but her voice makes no sound. She walks across the floor, but her feet leave no reflection in the mirrored marble. She looks down at her hands and sees, to her horror, that they are becoming translucent. A faint, distant sound of laughter reaches her ears, the laughter of nymphs and mortal women, the sound she has come to despise more than anything. She turns and sees a procession of figures walking past the throne room, their arms linked with Zeus. Leda, Europa, Io, Semele, Alcme, an endless parade of her rivals. They do not even look at her. It is as if she is not there at all. This is her deepest fear, made manifest in the cruelty of dreams. Not just the infidelity, but the irrelevance. The fear that she, the queen of heaven, the goddess of marriage, is nothing more than a placeholder, an inconvenient political necessity. In her nightmare, Zeus is not just having affairs. He is building new dynasties, new histories, new pantheons in which she has no part. Her title becomes a hollow mockery. She touches her throne, the symbol of her power and her identity, and her fingers pass right through. The dream ends as it always does. She is left alone in the cold, empty hall, completely invisible, a ghost in her own home, while the sounds of life and laughter and love continue eternally without her. Let the cold silence of her chamber fall away. You feel a pull now, a deep, rhythmic thrum that resonates not in your ears, but in your... It pulls you away from the static stone peak of Olympus, out into the open night, and down, down, down toward the dark, churning expanse. You plunge beneath the waves, the water offering no resistance to your ethereal form. The world transforms. The cold starlight is replaced by a crushing, silent, blue-black darkness. This is the kingdom of Poseidon, and the earth shaker does not sleep. You find him in his throne room, a vast cavern at the bottom of the deepest ocean trench, where the pressure could crush a mountain to dust. His throne is not of gold, but of black, volcanic rock, inlaid with pearls the size of human fists and glowing, bioluminescent corals that cast a soft, ghostly blue light over the scene. He sits alone, his great trident resting in the crook of his arm, his beard and hair waving slowly in the deep currents like seaweed. His eyes are open and they are fixed on the endless darkness before him. He is not thinking, he is listening. He is feeling the pull of the distant moon on his tides, the slow, grinding groan of the tectonic plates beneath the ocean floor, the frantic heartbeat of a shoal of fish fleeing a predator miles away. He is connected to every drop of water in the world, a consciousness spread across 70% of the planet's surface. It is a power as immense and as untamable as Zeus's sky, but it is a lonely power. His subjects are not supplicants with prayers and offerings. His subjects are hurricanes, tsunamis, and the silent, monstrous things that hunt in the abyssal dark. He feels a volcanic vent burst open on the seafloor, creating new land. He feels a polar ice shelf calve, a mountain of ice groaning as it is born into his sea. He is a god of constant, violent, and chaotic creation and destruction. The static, predictable political world of Olympus, with its meetings and its arguments, must feel like a tiny, insignificant cage to him. Here, in the crushing silence of the deep, surrounded by the raw, untamed power of his own being, he is truly a king. But it is the kingdom of a lonely heart, a consciousness so vast it can never truly connect with another, forever adrift in his own eternal, churning soul. Let us leave the Lord of the Deep to his vigil. You feel another pull, a different direction, not up, not down, but away. A call toward a place that is neither heaven, nor earth, nor sea. You rise from the ocean depths, a silent thought ascending through leagues of black water, and break the surface into the moonlit mortal world. You drift over sleeping islands and dark continents, a swift and silent journey. You are heading for a place the living fear, a destination whispered in hushed tones, the entrance to the underworld. You find it in a dark, secluded grove of black poplar and sterile willows. The air here is unnaturally still. No birds sing, no insects buzz. There is only the faint, whispering sound of a river, its waters as black and thick as oil. This is the river Styx. In the distance, you see a single skeletal fairy, pulled by a silent, hooded figure. This is Charon the ferryman, but you have no need of his services. You drift across the black water, the whispers of forgotten souls clinging to you like mist, and pass through the great gates of the realm. There is no fire here, no brimstone. The palace of Hades is a place of profound, silent majesty, a dark mirror to Olympus. It is built not of white marble, but of polished black obsidian that seems to drink the very light from the air. Ghostly, phosphorescent fungi provided, the air smells of damp earth, the roots of things, and the dry, papery scent of asphodel flowers. It is a place of endings, of memory, of quiet finality. You drift through the silent halls, past whispering shades who pay you no mind, their forms faint as smoke. You expect to find a grim, terrible king presiding over a court of suffering, but you do not find Hades on his great throne of bone and shadow. Instead, you are drawn to a source of faint, silvery light, coming from a secluded, walled-off section of the palace. You pass through the obsidian wall, and the sight that greets you stops your timeless journey. You are in a garden. It is a place of impossible, heartbreaking beauty. In the eternal twilight of the underworld, a garden blooms. The trees are the color of silver and shadow, their leaves like dark velvet. The flowers do not have vibrant colors, but glow with a soft, internal luminescence. Ghostly white, pale lavender, a blue as faint as a dying star. This is Persephone's garden, and at its center, sitting on a bench carved from a single piece of onyx, are the king and queen of this realm, Hades and Persephone. The myth you know is one of abduction, of violence, of grief. The reality you are witnessing is something else entirely. He is not holding her captive. He is sitting beside her, and his posture for the first time is not that of a stern, lonely king. It is relaxed. He is listening as she speaks, her voice a soft melody in the profound silence. The new blossoms on the leafy lotus are paler this season, she is saying, her finger tracing the edge of a glowing petal. I think they miss the memories they consume. He considers this for a moment. Perhaps, he says, his deep voice softer than you imagine it could be. Or perhaps they are simply tired. There is a comfortable, easy silence between them. The silence of a couple who have spent centuries in each other's company and have no need to fill every. She leans her head against his shoulder, a gesture of simple, unforced affection. His hand, which holds the dominion of all the dead, rests gently on hers. Here, in the heart of darkness, you witness the most stable, most peaceful, and perhaps the most loving relationship in the entire divine family. This is the great cosmic irony. On bright Olympus, the god and goddess of marriage are locked in an eternal war of infidelity and resentment. Here, in the land of the dead, the god of the underworld and the young goddess of spring have forged a partnership of mutual respect and quiet devotion. He gives her a kingdom to rule, a power she would never have as a minor goddess on Olympus. And she in turn brings life in its own strange, ghostly way to his realm of death. She is not a prisoner here. This garden, her creation, is the testament to that. It is a triumph of life and beauty in the most unlikely of places. You realize that Hades' brief, lonely trip to Hestia's hearth was not just a visit to his sister. It was a journey from one home to another. His kingdom is here with his wife. He plucks a fruit from a nearby pomegranate tree, its skin as dark as a starless night. He breaks it open, and the seeds within glow like embers. He offers her a half, and she takes it with a small smile, eating a single glowing seed. It is the food of this realm, the taste of shadow and secrets, and it binds her to this place. But you see now that the chain is not. She chooses to be here, to be the queen of this silent, beautiful, and melancholy kingdom. She has found a power and a purpose here that the sunlit world, with all its noise and drama, could never offer her. As you watch them, two figures of darkness and light finding a perfect balance in the eternal gloom, you understand that the greatest myths are not always the ones that are told, but the ones that are lived, quietly, in the places no one ever thinks to look. The realization settles upon you, a quiet, profound truth. The power on Olympus is loud and brittle and performative. The power in the underworld is silent and deep and real. Leaving the king and queen to their peaceful solitude, you drift away from the glowing garden, out of the obsidian palace, and back toward the world of the living. The journey up feels different now. The mortal world, sleeping under the cold moon, seems less like a battlefield for the gods' whims and more like a fragile, temporary space, blissfully unaware of the true, eternal dramas being played out above and below it. Your perspective has shifted. The universe feels larger, more complex, its secrets more deeply buried. You ascend back to the peak of Olympus, which now seems almost garish in its white marble perfection. The dreams of Zeus and Hera feel like the flailings of children compared to the quiet, adult understanding you have just witnessed. The night is deep. The celestial diamonds on the ceilings of the palace cast their cold, indifferent light. The hearth of Hestia continues its lonely, faithful burning in the grand hall. The great cycle of the divine day is over, and the truths of the night have been revealed. You have seen that fear is the pillow of the king, that invisibility is the nightmare of the queen, that loneliness is the price of immense power, and that love can bloom in the darkest of places. The cosmos is not a story of good versus evil, of light versus dark. It is a far more intricate tapestry, woven from threads of duty and longing and regret, and a quiet, desperate search for meaning in the face of forever. And now your own consciousness feels heavy, not with weariness but with the weight of these quiet truths. The time for observation is over. The time for rest is at hand. Let the weight of these cosmic secrets settle. Allow them to become a soft, heavy blanket, pulling you down into a deeper state of relaxation. Your journey through the divine night has shown you the hidden truths, the vulnerabilities behind the masks of power. Now, let us drift to the quieter corners of the sleeping palace, to the dreams of the gods whose stories are often sung in simpler, clearer notes. Let us see if their nocturnal worlds are as untroubled as the myths would have you believe. You find yourself drawn to the cool, clean air of the northern wing of the palace. Here, the architecture is less ornate, more functional and severe. You pass through a wall of silver-gray marble into a chamber that feels more like a warrior's barracks than a goddess's boudoir. The room is Spartan, a simple bed with a single, coarse wool blanket, a rack holding a gleaming silver bow, and a quiver of arrows fletched with. The only decoration is a large, circular shield hanging on the wall, polished to such a high mirror finish that it reflects the entire room in a distorted, fisheye view. The air smells of night air, pine forests, and the faint, clean scent of ozone like the aftermath of a lightning strike in the wilderness. This is the chamber of Artemis, the eternal maiden, the huntress of the moon. She lies on her simple cot, her body still and relaxed, yet radiating a kind of coiled, latent energy, like a predator at rest. Her silver-white hair is spread across the pillow, the only soft thing in this austere room. One might expect her to dream of the thrill of the hunt, of chasing stags through moonlit forests, or drawing her bow against some fearsome beast. But her dreamscape, when you enter it, is a place of profound and unsettling stillness. You find yourself in an endless, silent, silver forest. The trees have no leaves, their branches like stark, white bones reaching for a sky that holds no stars, only a massive, luminous, and ever-present moon. There is no sound, no wind in the branches, no crunch of leaves underfoot. The air is cold and thin. In her dream, Artemis is running. She runs and runs, her form swift and tireless, but the scenery never changes. The silent, silver trees stretch on into infinity. She is not chasing anything. She is being chased. She looks over her shoulder and you see what she sees. It is not a monster of fang and claw. It is a man's face, then another and another. Apollo, her own twin, his golden beauty somehow threatening in this colorless world. Orion, the giant hunter who was once her companion, his eyes full of a possessive adoration that curdled into a threat. Actaeon, the foolish mortal who saw her bathing, his face a mask of shock and desire. The faces multiply, swirling around her like a ghostly fog, their voices a low, insistent murmur that she cannot quite make out, but the intent is clear. It is the murmur of expectation, of desire, of possession. They want to claim her, to define her, to change her. Her dream is not about the hunt. It is about the flight. It is the eternal, exhausting flight from a world that seeks to put her in a box, to label her as a wife. Her vow of chastity, you realize, is not about a rejection of love, but a fierce, desperate declaration of self-ownership. She dreams of this endless, silent forest because it is the only place where she can run forever, where no one can catch her, where she can remain eternally, untouchably herself. Her greatest fear is not the tusk of a boar or the claw of a lion. It is the cage of another's definition. The hunt is not her passion. It is the one activity that allows her to be nothing but herself. A solitary, powerful force moving through a wild and untamed world. Let the cold, silent forest of her dream dissolve. We move on, seeking its opposite, a place of warmth and light and sound. We drift back towards the heart of the palace, to the chambers of her twin, Apollo. His rooms are a stark contrast to his sisters. They are filled with light, even at night, from enchanted braziers that burn with a soft, smokeless, sun-colored flame. The walls are covered in frescoes depicting his many triumphs, the slaying of the python, his victories in musical contests, the adoring faces of his followers at Delphi. Lyres and other musical instruments of exquisite craftsmanship are displayed on stands of polished cypress wood. The air smells of bay laurel, warm stone, and the faint, clean scent of sunlight. Apollo lies in a bed draped with cloth of gold, his perfect face untroubled, his golden hair fanning out like a halo. He appears to be the very image, but the world of his dream tells a different story. When you enter his mind, the light and warmth vanish, replaced by a disorienting, echoing silence. You are standing in a vast, empty amphitheater under a sky the color of a fading bruise. The stone seats are all empty. He is alone on the stage, holding his lyre. He begins to play. The music he coaxes from the strings is beautiful, impossibly so. It is the music of creation, of harmony, of perfect mathematical order. But there is no one to hear it. The notes rise into the empty air and die without an echo. He plays on, his fingers flying across the strings, a look of desperate concentration on his face. He is playing to prove something, but his audience is absent. Then, a single figure appears in the highest tier of the amphitheater. A small, hunched, and vaguely ridiculous-looking satyr, holding a set of reed pipes. It is Marsyas, the challenger he flayed alive for daring to compare his mortal music to the gods. The satyr does not play. He simply watches, his expression not of anger or pain, but of a quiet, profound pity. Another figure appears. A woman, her face beautiful but streaked with tears. It is Cassandra, the princess of Troy, to whom he gave the gift of prophecy, but cursed that she too just watches him, her eyes full of the terrible knowledge she could never share. Then another and another. Hyacinthus, the beautiful boy he loved, struck dead by a discus. Daphne, the nymph who fled from his advances, transformed into a laurel tree just beyond his grasp. All the figures from his past, all the objects of his love and his wrath, fill the silent theater. They are not accusing him. They are simply bearing witness. This is the nightmare of the god of prophecy and knowledge. He can see everything, understand the perfect, intricate patterns of the cosmos, create music that is the envy of the spheres. But he cannot connect. His brilliance, his perfection isolates him. His love is destructive, his gifts are curses, his victories are hollow. He is the god of light, but his dream is filled with the shadows of his own failures. His deepest fear is not of darkness, but of the profound, echoing silence of being utterly, divinely, and perfectly alone with his own flawless, unfeeling art. The brilliant sun, God, dreams of being unable to generate his own warmth. Let the silent theater and its ghostly audience fade. We seek now a simpler mind, a dreamscape less cluttered with the debris of 1,000 years of memory. We drift to the chambers of the god of war. Ares's room is exactly as you would expect. It is a glorified armory. Weapons of every description line the walls. Swords, spears, axes, all honed to a razor's edge. The air is thick with the smell of polished bronze, leather, and old sweat. The only furniture is a rough-hewn bed covered in the hide of a bear. There, sprawled in a tangle of limbs, is the god of war himself, snoring loudly. His dreams are not subtle. You enter his mind and are immediately thrown into a scene of utter chaos. You are on a battlefield. The sky is red. The air is thick with the screams of men and the clash of steel. Ares is in the center of it all, a whirlwind of destruction. He is not a general, commanding from a safe distance. He is a berserker, a frontline soldier, his face contorted in a mask of pure, adrenaline-fueled rage. He cuts down soldier after soldier, their faces a blur. He feels the jarring impact of a shield against his, the satisfying crunch of his spear finding its mark. This is not a nightmare for him. This is paradise. But as the dream wears on, a subtle change occurs. The faceless soldiers he is cutting down begin to take on familiar features. He sees the cool, disdainful face of his sister, Athena, just before his sword strikes. He sees the clever, mocking grin of Hermes. He sees the radiant, disappointed face of his father, Zeus. They are not fighting back. They simply look at him with a mixture of contempt and pity as he strikes them down. The thrill of the battle begins to sour, turning to ashes in his mouth. He is the god of war, but he is the least respected of all the Olympians. He is seen as a brutish, simple mind. He is tolerated but never admired. His dream begins in glory, but it always ends in this same, humiliating. The battle he is truly fighting is not against mortals on a dusty field. It is against his own family, on the polished floors of Olympus. A battle for respect, for a seat at the table where he is not seen as a necessary evil, but as an equal. He wins every physical fight in his dream, but he is left standing alone on a field of corpses of his own making, and the feeling is not of victory, but of his greatest desire is to be more than just a weapon. But the only language he knows is violence, and it is a language no one else on Olympus truly speaks. Let us leave the bloody field of his frustrated mind. The night is growing long, and there is one last dream we must visit, the most unlikely dream of all. We drift to the forges, deep in the heart of the mountain. The fires have been banked for the night, their roar reduced to a low, sleepy rumble. The heat is still immense, but it is a dry, comforting warmth now. We find Hephaestus, the lame god, not in a bed, but asleep in a large, worn armchair near the main forge. A half-finished automaton of a metal bird resting on his lap. His sleep is deep, the sleep of a body exhausted by honest, physical labor. His dream, you expect, will be of fire and metal, of creation and solitude. You could not be more wrong. When you enter his mind, there is no forge, no clang of hammers, no suffocating heat. You are standing on a green hill under a clear blue sky. The air is fresh and smells of wildflowers and summer grass. And Hephaestus is not alone. He is standing beside a woman of impossible, heartbreaking beauty. It is Aphrodite, but she is not the cool, mocking, distant goddess of the Olympian court. She is looking at him with a warmth and a genuine affection that you have never seen in her waking eyes. She is not looking at his twisted leg or his scarred hands. She is looking at him. In his dream, he is not lame. He stands straight and tall. He is not the grimy, soot-stained smith, but a handsome god, his features noble and kind. He reaches out and touches her face, and she leans into his touch, her eyes closing in a sign of perfect trust and contentment. "Show me what you made today," she whispers in his dream, and her voice is full of sincere interest. He gestures, and in the field before them, tiny, intricate birds made of gold and silver take flight, their jewel-like wings beating the air as they sing a song of impossible mechanical beauty. She laughs a sound. "It's beautiful," she says. "You are a wonder." He dreams this dream, or a variation of it, every single night. It is the life he was supposed to have, the love he was promised. It is a world where his talent is not just a useful commodity for the other gods, but a source of joy and connection. A world where the most beautiful being in the cosmos does not see him as a cosmic joke. a grotesque husband she is forced to endure, but as her partner, her equal, her beloved. It is a dream of such simple, profound, and human longing that it is almost too painful to witness. Every morning he will wake up in the heat and the soot, alone. Every morning he will be reminded of the reality of his marriage. But every night, in the privacy of his own heart, he builds this perfect, gentle world, a refuge of all the gods. It is the broken one whose dreams are the most whole. The night is almost over. A faint, pearlescent gray is beginning to touch the eastern sky. The dreams of the gods will soon dissolve like mist, their deep-seated fears and longings tucked away for another day, hidden once more behind their masks of divine indifference. You have been a privileged, silent witness to their most private truths. You have seen that the goddess of the hunt dreams of being caught, the god of light dreams of being unheard, the god of war dreams of being respected, and the god of the forge dreams simply of being loved. The grand marble edifice of Olympus is, in the end, just a house filled with lonely, powerful people, each trapped in the beautiful, terrible prison of who they are. You drift now, for the last time, back to the grand hall. Hestia is still there, her calm face illuminated by the eternal flame. She seems to look up as you enter, her eyes looking not at you, but at the coming dawn. She knows the pageant is about to begin again. The noise, the arguments, the posturing. Her quiet, steady presence is the only thing that holds it all together. She is the keeper of the house, but she is also the keeper of their secrets, the silent witness to all the truths that are never spoken aloud. Her fire is not just a symbol of home. It is a beacon of sanity in a universe of divine madness. Let the image of her steady, quiet flame be the last one you hold in your mind. Let it be a point of focus as you begin your own gentle descent into sleep. The drama of the gods is vast and eternal, but your part in it is over for tonight. Let their anxieties and their sorrows fade away. They do not belong to you. Your only task now is to find the quiet, peaceful darkness that waits behind your own closed eyes. Let the rhythm of your own breathing be your guide, in and out, slow and deep. The night has shared its secrets with you. Now it offers you its gift. The gift of rest, the gift of peace, the gift of a dreamless, quiet sleep. The first, faint hint of gold now touches the bruised purple of the eastern horizon, a promise that the great, slow wheel of the cosmos is turning once more. The dreams of the gods are fading, evaporating like dew in the coming light. Let us remain just a moment longer to witness the transition, to see how these powerful beings shake off the vulnerable truths of the night and once again don the heavy armor of their divinity. The waking world of Olympus is a stage, and the actors are beginning to take their places. The great bronze door to Ares's chamber is the first to be thrown open. It does not swing gently. It slams against the marble wall with a crash that echoes through the silent palace. He strides out, already clad in his gleaming bronze armor. The sullen, lonely dreamer of the night is gone, replaced by a walking embodiment of aggressive, boastful energy. He carries his helmet under his arm, his face set in a belligerent scowl. He is not scowling at anything in particular. It is simply his default expression, a preemptive strike against a world he assumes is judging him. He sees Apollo's chamber door and spits on the floor in its general direction, a gesture of petty, pointless defiance. He is a caricature of masculinity, a being so uncomfortable with his own inner world that he must make the outer world tremble. Next, a soft, musical hum precedes the opening of another door. Apollo emerges, and he is once again the picture of perfection. The weary, lonely musician from his dream has vanished. His skin glows with a renewed, golden light. His smile is bright, confident, and utterly unreadable. He holds his lyre, and as he walks, he plucks an idle, cheerful melody from its strings. The notes are so bright and clear that they seem to polish the very air, making the coming dawn feel even more vibrant. He nods curtly to Ares as he passes, a nod that is both a greeting and a dismissal. Ares just grunts in response, the contrast between them, brute force and refined art, chaotic noise and perfect harmony, a fundamental tension that has existed since their births. You witness a small, almost invisible interaction that speaks volumes. A nymph, a minor spirit of a stream, hurries past, carrying a silver tray with a goblet of nectar. She keeps her eyes downcast, trying to be invisible. But as she passes Ares, he deliberately sticks out his armored leg. She trips, stumbling with a small cry, the tray clattering to the floor, the precious nectar spilling in a shimmering puddle. Ares lets out a loud, barking laugh, amused by her clumsiness. Before the nymph can even begin to stammer an apology, Apollo, without breaking his stride or missing a note in his melody, simply gestures with his free hand. The spilled nectar on the floor shimmers, rises into the air in a perfect golden sphere, and flows back into the goblet. Not a single drop lost. The nymph stares, wide-eyed with gratitude and awe. Apollo does not even look at her. He just continues on his way, humming his cheerful tune. The entire event, the casual cruelty, the effortless display of power, the complete indifference, is a perfect encapsulation of the Olympian social order. Now other doors begin to open. Athena emerges from her Spartan chamber, fully armed, her intelligent gray eyes already scanning the horizon as if assessing a battlefield. She carries the mirrored shield, the one that reflects her own austere room, and you know now it also reflects the endless, lonely forest of her dreams. Hermes zips into existence in the middle of the hall, having seemingly come from everywhere at once. His grin is back, his eyes alight with the thrill of a new day full of messages to carry and mischief to make. The exhausted, restless god you saw last night is nowhere to be seen. The masks are firmly in place. The double doors to the royal chambers swing open, and Zeus and Hera emerge together. They are the image of a royal couple, stately, powerful, and radiating an aura of absolute authority. Zeus's brow is clear, his expression confident. Hera's smile is serene and gracious. There is no trace of the terrified dreamer or the invisible heart. They walk side by side, a perfect picture of unity, but you, the silent observer, notice the tiny details. You see that they are not quite touching. A space of a few inches, a carefully maintained, invisible boundary exists between them. You see the way Zeus's eyes briefly flicker towards a passing, beautiful nymph, a flicker so quick it is almost imperceptible. But Hera, without even turning her head, sees it, and her serene smile tightens for just a fraction of a second. Theirs is not a partnership, but a carefully negotiated eternal truce. They are all converging now, moving instinctively toward the grand hall, the stage for their daily performance. Hestia is there, as she always is, her calm presence a silent rebuke to their frantic, ego-driven lives. She has already added a new log of celestial olive wood to the fire, and its clean, smokeless flame burns brightly, ready to greet the day. The gods gather, but they do not speak. They are waiting. The air is filled with a sense of anticipation, a feeling you have felt once before this day. They are all looking to the east. As the first, true ray of direct sunlight lances through the high colonnades, striking the marble floor like a spear of pure gold, the tension breaks. The day has officially begun. Zeus claps his hands together, the sound sharp and final. Right, he says, his voice booming with renewed vigor. Let's get on with it. The meeting will start soon. The arguments will be renewed. The petty grievances will be aired. The performance will begin again, but you will not stay to watch it. Your journey is done. To stay longer would be to see the same play performed over and over, for all eternity. It is time to leave them to their golden, tragic stage. You drift up, out of the grand hall, past the gathering gods who are already starting to bicker about whose turn it is to choose the wine for the evening feast. You rise higher and higher, the magnificent palace on the peak shrinking below you until it is just a glint of white and gold on a mountaintop. The mortal world below is waking up. You can feel the stirrings of life, the collective consciousness of humanity beginning its own daily cycle of hope and toil and fear and love. Their lives are so short, so fragile, so fleeting. From the perspective of Olympus, A human life is but the flicker of a firefly in an endless night. And yet, as you descend back toward that world, you are struck by a final, profound thought. The gods, in their eternal, unchanging existence, cannot truly know love because they cannot know loss. They cannot know courage because they cannot know true danger. They cannot know the precious, heartbreaking beauty of a single moment because they have an infinite number of them. Their immortality is not a blessing. It is a sterile, unchanging perfection. The true drama, the true meaning, is not in the golden palace above, but in the messy, finite, and beautiful struggles of the mortal world below. Let this final thought be your anchor as you return fully to yourself. Feel the reality of your own body, the gentle rise and fall of your own breath. You are not a god trapped in an endless cycle. Your time is finite, and that is what makes it precious. The worries and struggles of your own life are real, but they are also temporary. The night has given you perspective. It has shown you that even the most powerful beings in the universe are burdened by their own hearts. Let that knowledge bring you a sense of peace. Your own burdens are no heavier and no lighter than those carried by the cosmos itself. The journey is over. The sun is rising, both on Olympus and in your own world. A new day is beginning, with all its possibilities and all its challenges. But you will face it with the quiet knowledge you have gained in the secret, sleeping hours of the night. The knowledge that behind every mask of power lies a hidden vulnerability, that in the darkest places unexpected beauty can bloom, and that even in the most profound silence, a steady, quiet flame of hope can endure. Let the noise of your own day begin, but carry this silence with you. Let it be a source of strength, a point of calm in the midst of the storm. And know that tonight, if you wish it, you can always return. You can close your eyes, quiet your mind, and once again drift up to the quiet, starlit halls of a sleeping Olympus, to the place where the gods, for a few precious hours, rest now. Your journey is complete, sleep.